Welcome to JED's Journal Podcast from the JED TV studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest in Hammond, Indiana. Now here's your host, Jim Diedlow.
We are talking with John Doherty. He's been a giant in sports medicine and physical therapy for several decades, and it's been a long time since we've been on together.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, I guess we missed last month. And
I saw you the other day.
Where?
You cut me off.
Did I? That was nice of me.
Yeah, it was nice of you. I'm like at the corner of Fran Lynn and Columbia, dooley-doo. I'm looking at Buknowski's office up there, and I go, I wonder what he's doing. And then some guy just kind of hung a left in front of me, and I look, and I go, I only know one dude with a crew cut, and there it is. He's John Doherty. He has reluctantly become one of my friends, so I can
reluctantly, yes.
Yes, make fun of him. But he used to come in on a regular basis, and we did a podcast and so forth. But there's a bunch of things that we want to hit in terms of what's going on. High school football has gotten going, volleyball, soccer. They're all in full swing. It doesn't have to do with one of your columns, but I think that when you left over there working at Dr. Lauren Brown and you went over to community to start a concussion clinic, I questioned your career choices at the time. I'm like, it's not really that big a deal. Concussions, really? I mean, maybe one or two a year, and I'm like every other hard-headed guy. I've had several concussions, both as a football player and as a boxer, and working in the Board of Trade, getting hit in the head a couple times. And I get all of that, but you really brought it into people's consciousness, and I think it really kind of I think you really saved some kids from, they need to be pulled out. There's all sorts of concussion protocols. It's an awareness factor. But I was thinking about this. I went to a game the other day. I go, I don't see a physician down there. And I saw that kid take that hit. Nobody came over and talked to him. Nobody came over and looked at him or anything. And I go, that's the kind of hit that is a concussion-like hit. I've taken those hits as a running back and stuff. And I just wondered, I go, has the awareness about concussions kind of ebbed down a little bit?
I don't think the awareness is ebbed. I think it's fatigue. I think there's concussion. I don't think there's concussion fatigue. I know there's concussion fatigue. People are tired of hearing about it and want to ignore it, even though they shouldn't.
All right, for whatever you want to call it, there is less concern about it in my, not concern, it's just not top of mind.
I think people are concerned about it, but they're tired of hearing about it, and they want to ignore it. They want to ignore it, even though...
Why do they want to ignore it?
Because it's an inconvenient truth that head trauma has long-term dangers to the brain, no matter what the source of it is. Whether it's a football game, a soccer game. Actually, there was a study published just last week about head trauma to Navy pilots because of the trauma their brains go through from landing a plane on an aircraft carrier.
That's a major force it hits.
Yeah.
I guess, we're just talking about it theoretically, and it's like, big, whatever, there's less awareness, but...
I mean, it's less awareness. It's just people just don't want to hear about it anymore.
Yeah, well, for whatever reason, what the main effect is that kid, that student, or man or woman...
Was it a varsity game or
it was a varsity football game. Yeah. And I was like, dude, man, I want to go down and do the protocol with him. But he just came over the sidelines, sat there, nobody did anything. And I'm like, I'm not going to mention what team or whatever, but I think that's fairly regular unless there's a big moment. I think back 8 years ago or 6 years ago when you were sitting on somebody's sideline, somebody takes a hit like that, you're over there, you're spying them out.
Yes.
And they're trying to avoid you. Because
that was always the giveaway, a kid trying to avoid me. Why are you avoiding me? And that would be the reason.
Because they're a little bit, they've gotten their bell rung or whatever. Right. Yeah. So
one kid would be trying to avoid me, and his teammates would be pulling, go check him out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, so they'd be giving him up.
Yes.
Because they cared about him.
Exactly.
And that's ultimately my point, is that I kind of wish that was the case then. I got my bell rung so many times in so many different situations. I remember getting my bell rung and then coming in, and John Friend said would never give me the play because he thought I was dyslexic, and he'd go 20, and he was right. He was the first guy. He goes, I give you the play, and it's supposed to go to the right side. You gave it to the quarterback on the left side, or sometimes I'd have to play quarterback and back it up, and he goes, you always go into the wrong side. Well, a couple of times he'd give me the play. I had my bell rung, I'm going both ways, so I'm not playing every play. He goes, get in there, tell him to run, blah, blah, blah. And then I get up there and forget to play.
Sure.
I can't remember. And Bill Howarth would be like, well, what do we do now? I'm not calling timeout. We'll just think of a play.
Right, yeah.
And then
call your own play.
Can you imagine coming over to John Friend and explain to him that you forgot to play? Well, part of that is getting your bell rung, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that the long-term damage is what we're up against here. If we're not addressing kids on a football sideline, soccer is the worst. I mean, this kid heads the ball or they knock heads. They don't have helmets on. I mean, that's just as bad as any. Cheerleading with Adriana, you need to listen to this now that you're a coach.
She knows.
Okay, she's doing her homework right now.
She knows.
But
we've talked about it before.
You've talked about concussions with John Doherty?
Yeah, we have.
Why?
On the air.
How would that come up?
Because of her background in cheerleading. We've talked about it.
Well, she's coaching now.
Yeah, surprisingly, thank God, but I've never had a concussion while doing cheerleading, even though I was switched between throwing people into the air, and when they land, if they land wrong, you have to catch them, and you catch them, make sure they don't hit the ground. And I've been also the one that's been tossed into the air and had my fair share of trying not to hit the ground, but sometimes it's inevitable. It's going to happen, but you have to keep your head up to make sure you don't smack it onto the mat.
Yeah.
It's a little scary, but it's what happens.
Do you know the concussion protocol yet?
Yeah. Usually, are you saying when an athlete hits the ground and if
that's going to happen? I know you guys do a lot of stuff. Kind of.
Yeah. Are you saying when they?
Well, I
hit
mean,
the ground,
I don't know what are you supposed to do, John? If you're a coach and somebody hits their head and you're like, man, I got to check this out. What are you supposed to do? You go over and do what?
Well, the first thing you do is you ask them how they are, and they may give themselves up instantly. I got a headache. I'm dizzy. And you look at their eyes, and you see if they can walk a straight line, and preferably a coach brings in an athletic trainer.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
the trainer
doesn't happen anymore. The trainers aren't there anymore, right?
Oh, athletic trainers are there.
All right, but at a lot of practices, they're not.
Well,
okay.
There's one athletic trainer at a high school, and there's 10 teams practicing. They can't be everywhere at once. You're right.
So or say it's a Little League game or a Pop Warner or something. There's no trainer there. I mean, how do you look at the kid and determine that they're having a concussion?
Well, if they have that glassy-eyed look, they've got a concussion. And that's probably the best giveaway for a lay person. If they complain about a headache after getting hit in the head, they have a concussion. If they complain about being dizzy, they have a concussion. If they go in the wrong direction, one of the best giveaways for me for years was a kid would get hit in a pile and come out of the pile and go to the wrong sideline or head towards the wrong sideline. If they stagger coming out of a hit to the head, then they're concussed.
Is there anything like, hey, count the 10? Count.
Oh, there's all sorts of things we can do. We ask them to count backwards. We ask them to count up by skipping a certain amount of numbers.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15.
Exactly. Ask them to
3, 7,
and then you're
6.
And then you're in trouble. Ask them 9. Ask them to remember 3 words. Come back 5 minutes later. But the key is with a layperson, the best advice is when in doubt, sit them out and then have a medical professional evaluate the child.
You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
When in doubt, sit them out.
Usually that happens. We'll ask them if a stunt goes wrong, we ask them, "Are you okay?" And depending, like, we see what happens, we see what goes wrong, unless they're going different places and we are unable to see exactly what had happened. But usually we have them sit out, the same protocols as he was saying, and our athletic trainer over there at Bishop Knoll, she's usually pretty good with, like yesterday we had practice and there were about 5-6 teams practicing, but she was pretty good of like, okay, I know this sport's practicing. She was helping somebody. We sent somebody to a trainer yesterday, but it was for allergy medicine because one girl is allergic to grass as we're practicing outside. And I was like, oh, you poor soul. I don't know how you do football season, but okay. But it's just like simple things like that. And if somebody gets hurt real bad or we don't know for sure, we make sure we have them sit out until we're either able to get them checked out or we're confident that they're able to go back out there and they're not going to injure themselves further.
Okay, speaking of injuries, I know there's your more recent column in the Times. It's now been 40 years that John Doherty's been writing in the NWI Times. But you wrote a rather interesting one about the Caitlin Clark injury. And, of course, that you started out like this. Idle thoughts while Caitlin Clark and WNBA TV ratings sit idle for the remainder of the WNBA season. Before we talk about her actual injury, I've never seen one person affect a league like that. It's right. Crazy. Yeah. But what is? Tell us what you think is going on with her.
Well, she probably injured that adductor or groin muscle up high in the tendon rather than in the muscle, and the blood supply to tendon is much poorer than it is to muscle, so it takes longer to heal. And is there a partial tear there? They aren't saying. If there's a partial tear there, that may never fully heal. And then the debate becomes whether or not with a tendon injury like that you have surgery. And the consensus among orthopedic surgeons is if it's an isolated groin strain and it's just one tendon, you have multiple groin muscles, you just leave it alone and let the inflammation go away and the discomfort go away and then rebuild the strength. However, if it involves damage to surrounding abdominal muscles and then you have a sports hernia as well, so there's damage above and below the bone where the tendon attaches for the groin muscle up high in the pelvis, it attaches to the bone from below. You have abdominal muscles attaching from above, and if there's a tear there, then the recommendation is to repair the whole area. So, does she have a sports hernia? I don't know. They aren't saying. They just are saying that she's taking a long time to get over this groin strain. Not unusual, and it can be a career-altering injury.
You know, it
ruined Tim Anderson's career.
I was going to say, talk about Tim Anderson, because this sounds very similar to him.
Yeah, he had suffered a groin strain, I think, in 2020, and then suffered another one in 2022. And at the time, he was hitting .356 when he got the second groin strain. He was never the same. And he's out of baseball now.
I mean, it's almost like a calf strain. You know, a calf strain is like...
Who's that with the Cubs that's out with a calf strain right now? One of the Cubs is out with a calf strain.
I mean, people
they take a long time to get
long time. I fought that playing in all the rec leagues around here, and it really boiled down to I had to sit out for a long time, and I now do the yoga and the height yoga. That's the only thing that cured that thing, is that complete stretching. And then when you go to play, that you gotta really stretch out. I mean, really give it a different level. So let's just say she is able to build up the other more muscles in her groin, and you don't realize, but it's attached to the stomach, and she's able to build that up. And I'm sure there's scientific workouts to do that. She's able to do that. What is her risk of that happening again?
Pretty high. Groin strains tend to recur. It's exactly what happened with Anderson. The biggest risk factor for a groin strain is a previous groin strain, and so that will be an issue for her. I think the biggest issue for Caitlin Clark is the WNBA needs to enforce the rules of the game when it comes to all their players, particularly Caitlin Clark, because they've allowed her to become a human pinball on that basketball floor, and there's no, in my mind, adequate discipline for the players that are committing flagrant fouls for whatever reason they're doing it against Caitlin Clark.
And you're echoing Larry Bird came out, and he was very vocal about this. He goes, what are you guys doing? You know, I mean, this is your golden goose,
yeah,
you're killing it.
Yeah.
Hey, one other one. Talk about Micah Parsons and, what...
He had a sore back.
Yeah.
And it was cured by $180 million. Pure and simple. He didn't have a sore back. You couldn't disprove that he had a sore back. They came up with a diagnosis that can't be confirmed or denied on an MRI. So he's got this sore back, and they give him some medication, and maybe he needs an injection. But I'm sure the MRI wasn't really showing anything. And as I said, this facet joint sprain, an MRI doesn't show whether or not you have a facet joint sprain. The only way to diagnose it is with a pain-killing injection. If the injection kills the pain, yeah, you've sprained the joint. But miraculously, as soon as he signs with the Packers, he's 100%, and he looks like he's 100%.
He does?
Yeah. Did you watch him?
Yeah, he's that good. Yeah, I mean, you sound like a true Bears fan questioning the Packers, but is that part of this? You're a Patriots fan, right?
I'm a Patriots fan, yeah.
You didn't want to say that out loud, did you?
No, I'm happy to say that.
And you're a Celtics fan?
Celtics fan, Bruins fan, Red Sox fan.
You know, my my daughter married a guy from the East Coast, and she dresses him always preppy. And I'm like, why are you dressing him like an East Coast prep dude? You going to a clam bake? You know, are you a Celtics fan now? And I asked the little kid, I go, take this off. Take this like polo and nice shorts off of him, and let's give him a ratty T-shirt and some, ratty pants, and let's put it on like a good Midwestern kid, not like an East Coast kid, because that's how they carry themselves. You've been able to amalgamate into the region pretty well, don't you think? Are you a region rat now?
I would say I am, yeah. Would you say I am? You're a better judge than I am.
I don't know. You're a Celtics fan, right?
No,
Patriots?
I'll always be a Boston fan, yeah.
And a Red Sox fan?
And a Notre Dame fan.
You know, it's odd that you say that because, like, my daughter married a guy from Brooklyn, and her best friend married a guy from California. And then I see him, and I'm like, how is it, guys, moving into the region? And then another one of them married a guy, I forget where he's from, but he's from out of the area. So like 3 girls that went to school together, married guys and brought them back to the region. And they're like, hey, man, did everybody grow up here? And it's so hard to crack the friend code here and to be accepted. Did you feel that when you first came here?
No, I was fortunate. I married Sue from Calumet City, and her friends accepted me, and I was blessed to be able to run in those circles right from the start.
Oh, look at you. Hey, he's John Doherty. Thanks for coming. Thanks for waiting. Sorry.
Sure, great news about Sam. Congratulations to him.
I want your opinion on something.
Sure.
Because it hasn't happened yet, but when the state legislature pressured the IHSAA to allow transferring at any time, and the IHSAA said, all right, you don't need to make a law. We'll just do this. And now they're allowing everybody to transfer there's certain guidelines, but up until your senior year, you can basically go here and go there. How does that change high school sports?
It adds to the chaos that we're seeing at the college level. My question is, it will certainly be easier for a student to transfer from a public school to a private school. But to transfer from one public school to another public school is easier said than done. The superintendent of the school district losing that student isn't going to want to give up the tax revenue for that student. And I believe still a superintendent can stop that transfer.
So are we setting up conflicts at time between parents and kids and all, and maybe coaches too, but probably not
coaches and school administrations? Yeah, we're setting up conflicts. And if you're a coach who's perceived as stealing other school districts' athletes, then you'll be shunned and blackballed, and it's going. I think it's creating more problems than it solves.
What? That's the problem?
I think it is. I think it is a problem where you'll have, and the other thing is now. Where are we with NIL at the high school level? I think this will help promulgate NIL payments to athletes at the high school level. We'll pay you to transfer.
Sam's right out there. I hear this all the time from him.
Yeah,
and I mean, the NCC as a conference, I mean, this is kind of a precursor to that. Like, how do you, I mean, we'll probably be some of the first because the NCC network is really a leader for the state on getting everybody together and trying to make the decisions for streaming your video and promoting the schools in the NCC. But I've been honest with the athletic directors. I think that's the next step. We're going to have a meeting on how we're going to handle the NILs, because some of these local places, who knows, even Powers Health, maybe one of them, say, well, we would like to, sponsor this athlete and have this athlete.
I don't see Powers Health.
I don't see Powers. I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. But eventually someone's going to do this, and they're going to want it, and they're going to test it.
Right.
And
it's happening in other states.
Oh, it's happening big time.
It's happening,
but they're going to test it here. Yeah. We're pretty good candidates here at the JED TV Sports Network, because all these, there's big viewership and big athletes that are on. I mean, we're going into the baseball season. That's probably the biggest one. And what do you do when someone says, "Hey, this kid will sponsor, spokesperson for our product or service,
sure,
and we want to do that, and I don't think you can stop us." Now, what do? Kid wants the money. Yeah. The business wants the exposure, pay the kid, and they want to put it on the spot that they're advertising on, and they want to use that. I don't know what that answer is, and I hope that I'm not the test case for that, but someone's going to be the test case.
We're going to find out. I think we're going to find out sooner rather than later.
I know where you're thinking about too. There's going to be a test case. By the way, I think that I want to let you guys know that I forget the kid's name at Knox High School, but he's 100 yards away from being the second leading rusher in Indiana history.
Oh, wow.
And we plan on doing his game on October 3rd. We've talked to the athletic director. Knox is coached by Russ Radke, so there'll be that added storyline. And let me get the kid's name so it's right. It's Miles McLaughlin.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and I think he had 436 yards and 9 touchdowns last week. And
Russ still running the wishbone down there?
I don't know what he's running. I ran into Russ, and he's like, "Man, you got to put Miles on the TV and all that and the radio." And so I'm like, "Okay, we'll do that. We'll send somebody down there. If Russ asks, you just do it." I mean, he's kind of like me, kind of like you. He's enough of a friend of mine that I can make fun of him. And so every once in a while, you got to honor that friendship. And we're going to put Miles on TV and see what happens. But how do you score 9 touchdowns, right?
That's hard. That's hard to do. There's only so many possessions in a game, and I don't know what the score was. Was it a close game?
No, it wasn't a close game. I forget what the number was, but it made it all the way to Sports Illustrated.
Yeah,
and
faces in the crowd.
And it's kind of he had in week 3 he had 436 yards and 9 touchdowns to lead the Knox High School Redskins over Culver Academy 72-24. He's John Doherty. We're going to let him digest that. Listen to Adriana. She's going to hold it while Sam and I go to breakfast. And then I'll be back at 9 for Mastering Local Marketing, and at 9:05 Mastering Local Marketing. Then I'll be at 10:05. I will be here for Limbwalkers. Nope. Weezer podcast.
I think it's just Weezer this week. I can check really quickly.
So I'll be on until about 11, and I have 2.
Yeah, Weezer. No Limbwalkers.
I got to go walk a dog, and my sister is in from the East Coast. She lives on Long Island, and she has lived there long enough that she has a slight Long Island accent,
boy.
even though she grew up on Madison Avenue in Munster.
Where did she live in Long Island?
She lives right outside of Northport, or I think it is Northport. Yeah, so it's very. Her husband is got that Long Island accent, and Long Island. He wears the preppy clothes. He's got a boat. You know, we went out there once and went to a clam bake, and
It's all good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
You've been listening to Jed's Journal podcast from the Jed TV studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest in Hammond, Indiana. Thank you for listening.